Bond, James Bond. James Bond is a timeless hero who was created by author Ian Fleming in 1953. He has been featured in more than a dozen novels and has one of the longest-running cinematic series with 24 feature films. But the question is, which actor portrayed the character the best? Let's find out.
My name's Bond. James Bond.
At the bottom of the list, we have George Lazenby, who only appeared in 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Lazenby was the second actor to portray the titular character, and he mostly got into the film by chance. He was an inspiring Australian model that producer Albert R. Broccoli met when getting a haircut. He was convincing in his action scenes, yet his lack of acting experience held him back in the more dramatic segments. He looked the part, but lacked the charm and charisma the character had required. Lazenby's wooden performance as Bond leaves him as one of the most lacking iterations.
Name is Bond. James Bond.
Number 5, we have Sir Roger Moore, who portrayed the character from 1973 to 1985 in 7 films. Although in the most Bond films, he was one of the campier versions of the character. He was 45 when he first started and nearly 60 in his last appearance. This era of Bond saw a drastic downturn in quality, with the latter films bordering self-parody. Moore was decent at being suave, but was lacking in action and he became less convincing with each subsequent film.
Thank you, Mr.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Pierce Brosnan. He was James Bond from 1995 to 2002. Although GoldenEye, his first film, is widely regarded as one of the best Bond films, his other 3 are quite lacking, with the last, Die Another Day, being the Batman and Robin of the Bond series. Yikes. However, he had the dashing good looks, the wit, and the charm. He was a mix of several prior Bonds, with Moore's charisma and Dalton's action. Perhaps Brosnan had the most potential to be great, but it didn't pan out.
Who are you?
Bond. James Bond.
Number 3, Timothy Dalton, who only appeared in 2 films in the late 1980s. Dalton was the first gritty incarnation of the character. This was a reaction to the Roger Moore Bond. Instead of a plethora of gadgets and one-liners, Dalton opted to bring a hard edge to the character. Dalton honored the roots of the character by more faithfully adapting the source material. He may not be the most stylish or outlandish version of the character, but deserves to be respected all the same. This intense portrayal of the character is often the most overlooked and underrated in Bond's history.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Number 2, Daniel Craig. After being cast in 2006's Casino Royale, many boycotted Craig as the new Bond. Yet Casino Royale would go on to be one of the best Bond films to date. After appearing in only 3 films, Daniel Craig is already the most financially successful actor to portray the character. Despite the misstep with Quantum of Solace, Craig's run has been very solid, with actor bringing a sense of realism and badassery to Bond. He will next be seen in the 24th installment in the Bond series, Spectre.
Bond. James Bond.
Number 1, Sean Connery. The original and still the best. Connery is the epitome of Bond. He has the charm, the wit, and the look. Without Connery's portrayal of the character, Bond probably wouldn't have become such a cultural icon years later. He easily established one of the coolest movie characters in history with his iconic performance. When people think of James Bond, Sean Connery is the first person most people think of. He is still the best. No actor has quite lived up to what he started. Who is your favorite actor to portray Bond? Let me know in the comments.